Here we go. It's another edition of the DC Sports Huddle, and it is presented to you by MGM National Harbor. It's time to change the game at BetMGM Sports. And speaking of time to change the game, enviously, we look on at two Super Bowl teams, the Rams and Bengals, hoping one day the game will be changed again here in Washington. So let's start by just getting your thoughts on the Super Bowl. Do either of these teams offer a potential blueprint for the Washington? I guess I can say Commanders now. I just call them the Washington.
I think it's official now.
I get used to it. For 2 years.
When did this happen? I didn't hear anything about this.
I didn't either. We should send somebody out to FedEx Field in the cold and see what happens. We'll begin with you, George Wallace. Rams, Bengals. You see anything here that we should take? What's your takeaway?
Well, look, I think it's obvious for me, and it's something that we've talked about a number of times. You look what the Rams did last year. They went out to get Matthew Stafford a year ago last week to the day, the trade. They went all in for that quarterback, and they were all in going for a Super Bowl, and I think that's evident what happened. You look at the other side, Joe Burrow, same deal, number one pick a couple years ago. By the way, with that 2-point conversion had gone in Miami a couple years ago against Washington and Bill Callahan coaching, then maybe Washington would have had Joe Burrow. Just saying, but the Dolphins went and tried to win that game with the 2-point. Anyway. Joe Burrow, look, the quarterback for me has been and always will be. You're not going to get me off that topic. That is the missing ingredient. I think if you look at both these teams, Matt Stafford, first time in 13 years, he put a team around him. He's playing well enough. He's getting a team to the Super Bowl. Yes, of course, they have weapons around him, and the defense is there as well. Bengals, same kind of deal. Weapons on offense, strong defense. You put that quarterback in there 2 years in, and he's in the Super Bowl. So for me, that I think it's evident. We've seen it this postseason, with the exception of maybe Jimmy G, who didn't really play. It wasn't the difference for the 49ers as far as the position is concerned. But for me, I'm all in on the quarterback. And if I look at both these teams, that's what's missing here.
Yeah, because it seems like the age of Trent Dilfer as a Super Bowl winning quarterback is past. And I think it's the age of, yes, you need the elite quarterback, someone that can keep a play alive. Maybe not like Taylor Heineke keeps a play alive, but someone that can keep a play alive and give you a chance because the defenses are so strong. Dave Preston.
I think what we can glean from this matchup is that the rebuilding clock, the rebuilding calendar is a lot shorter than it used to be. It used to be a 5-year build to take a team from the depths of the league to being a contender. 2 years ago, Cincinnati was drafting first. So these turnarounds, if you have the right quarterback, as we mentioned, as we've talked about all season, you got to have the right quarterback, whether it's a draftee, whether it's a free agent, whether it's a trade. You can rebuild a roster on the fly quickly in 2 years, especially with free agency nowadays and the way that the rosters change anyways. You can put together a quick rebuild like Cincinnati, even in a very difficult division where you have franchises like Pittsburgh, who even with an off year, they're still a good competitor. Cleveland was expected to do things this year. The Ravens are a perennial contender as well. So even in a difficult division, you can turn things around. Just like the NFC West, which under Sean McVay turned things around rather quickly with a quarterback that everybody thought, I don't know if this guy can do this. They're going 7-9 all the time with Jeff Fisher. If you have the right coach, if you have the right mindset, the right quarterback, you can turn things around quickly. And I think that should be the level of expectation. I'm not saying that this team needs to go from bust to Super Bowl within 2 years, but there needs to be progress, especially this upcoming year, for us to have the faith in Ron Rivera. I think Ron Rivera is a good coach. I think he's the right guy in place for this team and this franchise and this culture at this time. But I think we need to see more proof in the pudding than possibilities, which is what we have seen the last couple of years, especially in a weak division like the NFC East, where teams are stumbling over one another just to get to the start line.
And real quick, if I might, real quick, to your point, Dave, about the rebuild. You come in, give me 4 years, 5. Coaches don't have 4 or 5 years now for a rebuild. You've seen in the NFL how quickly you can do that with certain pieces here and there. Okay, yeah, you want to have mainstays and you plug and place other things until you kind of build around, but you don't have 4 or 5 years to break down the entire thing and rebuild it back up. So to your point, yes, it can be done in a couple short years. And now going into year 3, you keep saying the quarterback is the missing piece. Okay, you've got pieces around it. Now your clock is running.
Well, that makes this the most important offseason for certainly Ron Rivera, because this is year 3. And if you can't go to year 4 or 5, unless you get it right in year 3, it has to get right this year. I think we've done the simple math on that. Rob Woodfork, so what's the answer? Because we've got to figure it out. You need a quarterback. But, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo, somebody's going to take him, but I don't think he's the answer in Washington. But who is the answer? How do you go about it? That's the $1 million question. Every baseball team wants a 25-game winner. We need a quarterback in Washington. How, though?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, that's that's been the question here for 30 plus years now. I don't think the answer lies in free agency. I think you're going to have to trade for one of the big guns that's going to be available or figure to be available. I don't know that the answer is in the draft. I've seen people kind of tying them to Malik. Malik Willis. Thank you. They've been tied him to Washington. I mean, this is going to be a crucial offseason for that. That's what we know. But just looking at the Super Bowl teams, I mean, yeah, you got to have the franchise quarterback. And I think everybody's going to draw the line to the Rams making that big trade to get Matthew Stafford. And that's probably what it's going to take for Washington to get in this conversation. Now, if you look at the way the Cincinnati Bengals, basically that worst to first sort of deal, Washington, I think, sort of more closely resembles that. But I think in terms of building the team, I think the Rams are the closer comp. And a lot of people, and I didn't realize this, a lot of people are sort of looking at the Rams almost as like this dream team because of all those big names that they acquired during the season with Von Miller and Odell Beckham and all those guys. And they look at all the star power on that roster, but most of the stars on that team, save for the 2 guys that I mentioned, the rest of them are homegrown guys. So they really have built through the draft. And everybody's saying, oh, well, they don't have first round picks for, what is it going to be, 7 years, I think it's going to be. But if you look at the way they've built the team, they've been getting good guys in, second, third, fourth rounds. And if you're picking toward the end of the first round anyway, I mean, it doesn't much matter. And I was blown by this statistic here that the Rams actually got the most snaps of any team in the NFL out of guys who were playing on their rookie contracts, and also have spent the fewest free agent dollars over the course of the last 2 off seasons. So you don't associate that with a team that's in LA, but that's the fact of the matter. So Washington has done a really good job of laying the foundation, all those defensive linemen that they picked. I mean, they've got a pretty good offensive line when it's healthy. So really, all you got to do is swing for the fences for the quarterback. And I know that Ron Rivera has been sort of allergic to making a big deal for a quarterback. But if you do have to give up 2 or 3 first rounders, I think the Rams have proven that you can do that without necessarily sacrificing the future of your franchise.
Yeah, and I think
what you have to do with the quarterback situation is you almost have to carpet bomb it. There was the new coach in Jacksonville, Doug Peterson, was actually traded by Philadelphia. He was traded to Philadelphia from Green Bay in the late 90s, and they wound up taking Donovan McNabb. You had the year that Russell Wilson was picked by the Seattle Seahawks. They brought in a big free agent. So Washington cannot put their eggs in one basket, meaning just get a free agent, just make a trade, just draft a guy. They've got to have at least 2 different, 1-2 different options as far as who can play quarterback for this team, because there's a very good chance that the first guy they get won't be the guy, and they need to have a plan B if there's going to be a year 4.
And what better example of that than the 2012 draft, where you take RG3 second overall, and then you take Kirk Cousins 100 picks later. I mean, if they hadn't made that pick, where would that franchise have been? I mean, the most steady and consistent quarterback play they've had in the last 25 years came because they made that deal for Kirk Cousins. So that's a really good point, Dave. If you get yourself the Ferrari, you got to have good insurance.
Yeah, and also
at least have a Mazda.
Yeah, well,
in the back in the garage.
I think more and more we're realizing that it should have held with Kirk Cousins. He was starting to come on with Washington, or at least be a quarterback that could win some games in the NFL. But that's hindsight. One thing that the Rams remind me with Washington is it's also still about the trenches, the line of scrimmage, and the Rams defense front impresses me so much. And I think that's a component you compare, maybe not like for like in terms of the age of the personnel, but if the Washington defensive line performs the way it's capable of, that's a solid position. As you mentioned, Rob, the offensive line seems to have the ability. Now it's at one piece that we get at, but that we get back to the quarterback, and how do we go about it? If we had the answer, we'd be working in the front office somewhere right now to try to sort that out.
Oh, no, that's not true, because Rob he wanted Cam Newton, so he would have been out of a job anyway.
I know, and you know what? They'd be in the Super Bowl right now.
Oh,
Oh.
Can we all just be after we get this initial Super Bowl, can we all just take a moment, please, and just recognize the fact that the tree is finally down behind Mr. Preston?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
And before Super Bowl Sunday, guys.
Before Super Bowl Sunday.
Hey,
The fans have been.
It's always through the off week.
So many
Although I was
emails
looking at
about
his
that.
hairstyle this week, and I couldn't tell the tree was down because
Right. It's a different tree.
yeah. All right, Super Bowl. Why don't we go around, make some picks? Or what do we think? George, we'll start with you. Rams, Bengals.
I'm going Rams in this one. I think Sean McVay gets it. I think Matthew Stafford gets it. I think this team was there a couple years ago. I do think that plays part in this as far as bright lights, big city type of thing. They are at home. How much that plays into it? No, the travel schedule for sure. But I think, the Bengals, nobody in this franchise associated with Cincinnati has been there. The Rams, second time in 4 years. I think they deal with the pressure that comes with it. And they get it done. I'm kind of worried that it could get out of hand. I would like to think not, but I think the Rams win this game. I don't know about a score, but I think they win by double digits.
All right, Dave Preston.
I've got the Rams winning this one. I think just a veteran quarterback, veteran coach who's been there before. Also, I like their defensive line. Granted, Joe Burrow was able to survive an onslaught against the Tennessee Titans. I just think that the Rams defensive line they're going to make more plays. I think Cooper Kupp is going to make a ton of plays too. And we're going to wonder, hey, didn't Sean McVay used to coach in Washington, which only means he didn't get ruined by Washington's front office.
Right.
He was good. Best thing that happened to him was getting out of Ashburn.
All those guys. Those guys.
Right.
I'm also, when in doubt, go with the stubble. And Sean McVay's stubble, that's going to put him over the top in a close game.
Oh, it is the intangibles football. Rob?
I hate to make it a clean sweep because it's kind of jinxing the Rams, but I have a hard time seeing the Bengals win this game. For all the reasons that these guys have listed. Aaron Donald, what's the over-under on how many sacks he gets against an offensive line that gave up 9 sacks a couple of weeks ago? So, I think it's the Rams. They're playing in their home stadium. They have the better football team, I think, but I think the big X factor in this is Joe Burrow, because even though the Rams have the better team, Joe Burrow might be the best player in this game because, he's on a hot streak. This dude, everybody's kind of calling him the next Tom Brady, which I hope to God is not the case, but that's a really cheap organization. I don't know how they put together a Super Bowl team, basically with duct tape and smoke and mirrors, but I think the Rams win it, and just like George said, I wouldn't be surprised to see him win it by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, and I'm going to take the Rams, and I'm taking Joe Burrow the over rushing yards because I think he's going to be running for his life. Typically, it's one of the stats that he won a playoff game even though he was sacked 9 times. That's not going to happen in the Super Bowl. If you get sacked that many times, you're not going to win the Super Bowl. The only way and the only intangible. And it's not stubble, Dave Preston, I'm going to bring up in terms of the Bengals. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. And sometimes a team that just kind of shows up, it's relaxed and plays loose, and they don't even realize the magnitude of the game they're in. And they suddenly pull the upset. That's the only way I think the Bengals somehow win this, is that they come in so loose and so carefree that somehow they pull off a miracle.
I think I've heard that before. It said they're so young and dumb that they don't know that they're not supposed to win.
Right.
But you also see that you can also see Joe Burrow, the way he carries himself. He's a confident dude. He can go out there. I don't care. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm just going to go out and play. If I get sacked 9 times, fine. If I throw a few touchdowns, that's fine too. But no, I agree with that point too, David. Just like, you know what? I'm just going to go play. That's why we're here. His swag, he's got it. And he'd be the first player to ever win the Heisman national title and a Super Bowl.
And I mean, the thing is, what's the worst thing that's happened to Joe Burrow? He was told he wasn't as good as Dwayne Haskins a few years ago.
Right.
On the lines, Rob mentioned how cheap Cincinnati is. I think the NFL rank and file players are rooting for the Rams to win this one because you see the quality, the way that the Bengals franchise has nickeled and dimed their guys over the years, from charging for sodas in the locker room to not having an indoor practice facility. You look at how Sean McVay has really kind of coaxed and worked with the Rams, not playing starters in the preseason for a big chunk, letting the veterans, being more of a players franchise. I think the NFL rank and file, the union, they're like, please let the Bengals lose by 30 because, we don't want this is a copycat league that we look at, and we don't want, say, Tennessee or Jacksonville or Atlanta say, wow, maybe we need to run things the way they do things in Cincinnati. That would be the player's nightmare.
Either way, it's going to be ruinous for the league because this is a copycat league. So are you going to nickel and dime like the Cincinnati Bengals did, or are you going to trade all your your first round picks like the Rams have? And then, heaven help us. I mean, there was already an obsession with Sean McVay. Black coaches already can't get a job. So now the Rams win. And then all these handsome white dudes are going to get jobs all across the league. So either way, it's going to set I don't want to say a bad precedent, but it would be bad for people to try to emulate either path to the Super Bowl.
Well,
George Wallace, have you ever interviewed George Wallace, have you ever interviewed Sean McVay? Have you ever been around him? Because you could be the next head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, if you met him one time, you're already qualified to coach the Houston Texans.
I was going to tell you guys, this is my last huddle because I am in fact going that way. Yes.
Somewhere one time Washington coach and Rams coach George Allen is smiling because the current Rams are he never met a draft pick he liked. He wanted the future is now. That's where we got that phrase from. So somewhere George Allen, the late George Allen, is smiling about how the current Rams are in the Super Bowl. All right, we'll talk a little NBA trade deadline, specifically the Wizards here. The Bradley Beal trade rumors are now brought to a screeching halt because he is out for the rest of the season with a wrist injury. And so the $1 million question is, what do the Wizards do at the trade deadline? And I don't have an answer as someone who watches them night in and night out, because NBA trades are so difficult to make in terms of not only getting somebody you want, not giving up too much, and then matching salaries. I will say this, that if they're going to make any kind of deal, I do not want to see them give up on a Denny Avdia and a Rui Hachimura, because we've just scratched the surface with those two young players. And yes, this franchise is in its past given up on young players too soon. So I can identify who they should not trade, and that is specifically Denny Avdia, who I think is going to live up to the billing by the ESPN analysts that he might turn out to be the steal of the draft 2 years ago, because he is becoming an elite defender who can defend all positions. He's going to figure out his role in scoring, and he can score. But he's a versatile guy that even thinks he can guard centers in the NBA because he's smart. And when I have watched him go up against the Giannis's, big name guys, he doesn't get schooled on the fakes. He's a real mature defender, mature beyond his years in the NBA. We'll kick it around. George, your thoughts on what's going on Wizards trade deadline?
I was just thinking that, a couple weeks ago, we talked about how it's a great problem to have so many guys, right, coming back. And
now it's not. Now it's not a good problem.
Well, and I was going to ask you, Dave, that. Yeah, in the NBA, what's your rotation? What should your rotation be? 7, 8 guys, maybe? So now,
8, 9 on the outside, and it seems again, there was every reason to believe this team was real from that's why I don't understand what's going on right now. Wes Unseld Jr. has not been around long enough to lose the locker room. He's barely met the locker room, so right. that can't be the reason. I will say, I know it's simple and maybe sounds stupid, but this team does not make shots at critical moments. You've got to make shots in the NBA. We can talk about defense till we're blue in the face, but you don't pitch a shutout in the NBA. You have to make shots. And specifically the three-point shot, that doesn't mean you live and die by it. The Wizards, if you look at the stats, are not. They're not taking an inordinate amount of three-pointers. but their percentage is down at the bottom of the league with the Oklahoma Cities and Detroits. And because of that, they're heading in that direction in the standings. And obviously, a dramatic case in point the other night where they missed 24 3-pointers against the best 3-point shooting team in the league, the Miami Heat. You're not going to stand a chance at that point. So Kyle Kuzma said it. If the Wizards, and he said this about a month ago, would just shoot the league average around 35%, they'd be in much better shape. Instead, they're shooting at 32%. Now, 32 to 35 doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 2 or 3, 4 more made 3-pointers in a game. Well, what's the difference in an NBA game? 6 points or so.
Right.
Those 2 3-pointers are the difference.
Yeah, and it's so funny. It just seems that simple. I just worry that, with so many guys now, I wish maybe West just picks his rotation. You put your 5 athletes out there and you just go get it, because I know you're trying to get the team, the cohesion back. But you heard players say how it is now. You heard about the scuffle a little bit in the locker room. Like, is all that stuff real? Like, is it too much now for these guys to have that many teammates, that many guys trying to get minutes and playing for themselves? I don't worry about the team right now. I'm trying to get my minutes, and I need to impress to get on the court. So it's going to be interesting to see what Tommy does here in the next 24, 36, whatever, by the time we're taping this 24 hours, if he unloads some of those guys, because you want to identify the core guys, like Dave just mentioned, the guys that you want to build around, and then, and see if you can, pluck a few guys here and there. But it just seems that the deep rotation right now looks like it's not working for this team, and they need to figure that out before it just unravels completely. Because of course they're still right there on the edge of a playoff spot. So you'd like to see them maybe, now with Beal out. No, are they better without Beal? No. Have they played in spurts times better without Beal? Yes. So with that note, I got to run.
They have a winning record without Beal, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But Dave Preston, you're next.
I think, they have to address the rotation. I think they have 11, 12, maybe 13 guys who can play, who can be a part of the rotation. Perfect world, trade deadline, they find a way to get rid of 3 or 4 of them. And whether it's one of the centers, one of those extra guys, Davis Bertans is a guy who's on a big contract that might be appealing to a contender or a fringe team. Problem with the 10 teams advancing past the regular season is that you can be in 12th place in the conference, but still be within shooting range, no pun intended, of getting into the play-in round. So I think less is going to be more for this team. And if they can find a way to even get rid of 2 or 3 guys and get some assets and return something in the future, and then build up from there, I think that's what they kind of need to do with this team, because this is, especially with the question mark of does Bradley Beal come back, in the future, they need to figure out which parts of the core will go with Beal or with whomever else they bring in to be their alpha dog.
Rob?
Yeah, I mean, these are all good points here. I definitely think you have to have 8 or 9 guys to just kind of solidify your rotation. And the guy that I don't want to see go is Montrezl Harrell. I thought he really was the sort of jump started this team early in the season, especially during that 10-3 stretch start to the season. But then if you have to choose between him and Daniel Gafford, I mean, Daniel Gafford was that guy last year. So they do have some, look, Tommy Shepard, I don't envy the choices that he's going to have to make coming up here, but I just know that whatever this mixture is not something that is sustainable. It's nice to have a lot of talent. It's nice to have a bunch of guys, but we've learned a million times in a million different sports that, sometimes you can have things that look really good on paper, but it doesn't really translate onto the field or onto the court. So I think they have to find something that they have to find the sort of player, maybe like a Tough Juice, somebody like that who's out there that you can acquire. And, it's sort of, it's a good mixture from a chemistry standpoint on the team. But of course, having Beal out for the rest of the season kind of really screws with the chemistry, because, I mean, that's sort of the key to all of it is you want to make moves that are going to make Bradley Beal happy and make him want to stay beyond next season.
Yeah, no, it's a long way. I still remember Spencer Dinwiddie in the preseason saying, job is to come here and make it so Bradley Beal wants to stay here. And then they won 10 of their first 13 games, and you're thinking, we're on to something here. But having said that, this team was not as good as winning 10 out of every 13, but it's not as bad as losing 8 out of 10. And that's the part in all my 25 years of doing this is the most perplexing season I've ever been a part. I've been a part of 19 win seasons, but you get that. This I don't get. There are champions on this team, Kuzma, Contavious Caldwell-Pope. I get it, not the stars of the championship team, but there are people, there are players that know how to win. There are players that play with an edge, like a Montrezl Harrell or like a Hull Neto. It seems like there's enough of the right mix, but it's not a right mixture right now, and that's the thing that is so perplexing. And I've seen games recently where a second unit with Hull Neto and Corey Kispert and Denny Abdi and Montrezl Harrell seems to be bringing more energy, but you need a Kyle Kuzma in attack mode and scoring. He was playing some of his best basketball of his career recently. So
I definitely think Kuzma's a guy you keep. I don't think you.
No, there's no question.
I think that's a backbone guy. And quite frankly, look, when was the last time the Wizards had somebody who was that good with championship experience? I don't think that's something that you can that you can undersell.
And also, he's a selfless player. And the example was when he was in LA, he thought, all right, there's this guy LeBron. How do I impact the game? So he worked on becoming a better rebounder. Well, we're seeing that pay dividends in Washington, where often he's a leading rebounder as well as a leading scorer. And he's a mismatch every time he drives because he's got those skills and he's 6'10". I mean, he's a real 6'10". You don't realize he's 6'10" until you stand up next to him. But I think the short answer is Tommy Shepard's probably gonna have a sleepless night tonight because there's not an easy fix, and there's not, if we do this, we'll get that player. And even when you think, well, that's the player we need to get, you do need to consider chemistry and how it mixes. As what's going on right now is a perfect example. It's only a 5-man sport on the floor at any time, and there's only so many minutes, and it's got to mix right. Otherwise, you find yourself in a situation like the Wizards do.
And
right
there was all that talk about them making a move for Sabonis, which I would have liked to have seen that. But I mean, obviously he's getting shipped to Sacramento. I wonder what that mix would have been to have an all-star caliber big like that.
Yeah, no, and there's no question.
The Lakers are going through it now too, with far as playing and chemistry. And I mean, Russell Westbrook's on the bench at the end of games.
Yeah, Westbrook ruined the chemistry in that locker room. It's messed up. I mean, because he was a big reason why they were good last season. So I mean, to see him be sort of the ingredient that's kind of screwing up the chemistry is kind of odd and surprising.
And that doesn't make any sense because I witnessed it firsthand. He helped will this team in the right direction through some very bad times. Remember, this Wizards team last year was 15 games at one point below 500, and they somehow still made the playoffs.
But sometimes, sometimes you can have too many leaders, and there may be too many big voices in that locker room. Right.
All right, but there's never too many big voices in our locker room. The Sports Huddle. We appreciate your time this week. You know, the wonderful thing about this get together, we spent about 20 minutes and we still haven't solved anything. And that's okay. We'll try better next week. For George Wallace, Dave Preston, Rob Woodfork, I'm Dave Johnson. Thanks for joining us on the DC Sports Huddle. And I do need to tell you something so important.
Yeah.
But I mean, know what it is?
Tell us.
It's
BetMGM.
Sponsored by MGM National Harbor. It's time to change the game at BetMGM Sports. That was a clumsy way to fill time until I found the commercial read, but we thank you. BetMGM Sports. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching.
Break.